How has the conversation changed on Capitol Hill since this score came out from the CBO?
Well, we've heard from a few senators particularly who are alarmed by the numbers that CBO came out with, particularly on the amount of uninsured, which you mentioned. And they've talked about needing to slow down and for the House to maybe go back and make some changes to this before it moves on. But we're hearing from, from aides on Capitol Hill that House Speaker Paul Ryan isn't prepared to make those changes. He wants to move forward without any major changes to the legislation.
Anna, how much are House Republicans paying attention to what, say, Senator Susan Collins is saying or Senator Lindsey Graham? How much are they watching what the Senate is doing right now?
Well, certainly, since this process sort of has been underway, there's been eyes on the Senate because that is, they have some very different feelings on what should be done with Medicaid. They're very closely connected to their governors, and they've had sort of some concern with the way the House is going with this. But based on the CBO scores, the House doesn't appear to be kind of changing their track very much in the sense that, what the Senate is, how the Senate is responding. They're not really taking that into consideration at this point.
I imagine that the Senate will respond with legislation of its own. What's that likely to look like compared to what we've seen from the House?
Well, the idea is that this legislation will go to the Senate and that will be what they pass. Obviously, there's thoughts that this can't get through the Senate. So if changes were made based on what senators are talking about, a lot of that would be in the Medicaid portion of the bill. They might not want to roll it back quite the way that the House has wanted to on the expansion under Obamacare. Certainly that could be something that they take up. And they could do other things that, haven't really been discussed yet in the House legislation, maybe go further with some of the replacement pieces of this since they could slow down and think about it a little bit more.